Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. Today's video I want to talk about the latest news, Ronaldo returning, Martial and others who are returning to Carrington into training, whether privately or with the team. Some of the director of football noise that's out there with talk of Michael Edwards from Liverpool, a couple notes on transfers, and then a little bit about South America and one of the upcoming changes you might be seeing from United's recruitment, scouting, and analytics overall department that some people have been talking about, and that might be the reason for some of the more recent news that has come out. So starting with it, today Ronaldo returned to team training after talks with Ten Hag, apologizing and making good with him. I think from everything I've heard on this, Ten Hag has just come out of this looking very, very good to the team, to the fans, to basically everybody with somewhat of a brain on this, who would say, that he put down the law on what was needed to get discipline in place, made himself in charge without doing anything that would disrupt the overall harmony of the squad simply by removing the issue. Anything he says publicly doesn't really matter, but the simple fact is now that Ronaldo is there. In order to stay with the team, he's going to have to not cause trouble, and all he's done is strengthen Ten Hag's position over the team, over the fans, and everybody, based on everything that's happened now. So a win for Eric overall, but a win for the team in general that should allow them to really continue, and it's always good, a reduction in player power there as a message to other players as well, of who the boss is, and that makes a big, big difference. It still stands to reason that Eric Ten Hag would like him to move in January if possible. Some news has come out, and again, it all comes down to, like it said, expecting a quiet January, I think came out, and I've been saying that for a long time, unless Ronaldo leaves, but the chances are still very limited. So as of now, most of the news about January, if it's saying that there's big chances to make a signing, I would take as false at this point in time, and I would consider that true until something distinctly changes with the overall club. And that is unlikely, but we'll get to some of that in a minute. Talking about Martial and others, I mentioned in yesterday's video that it was expected that Martial would be available for Thursday, potentially on the bench, and he was pictured going into Carrington today. He was not pictured with the team training yet, so he's doing individual fitness, but also, remember, they don't always do certain of the bits on camera. Him and Rashford both popped up out of the blue after not being pictured right after the international break, and were healthy and available, and after not being expected. So I still stand by that. He should be available for Thursday, but we'll see what happens if he's with the traveling team. I think he'll make the bench. I do think so at this point in time. Wan-Bissaka was pictured in team training. Donny van de Beek was pictured in team training. Ronaldo obviously back, as well as Harry Maguire. So the only person really out among the main first team now is unfortunately Rafael Varane. And he'll be out until after the World Cup. So I think you'll start seeing some rotation. I would be surprised to see Maguire and Lindelof in this Europa game on Thursday to give Lisandro Martinez some rest. And I think Wan-Bissaka is due to get a game pretty soon. Moving on to the director of football and this stuff on Edwards. I try to be careful on saying this because people can take things kind of the wrong way. Earlier in the year, we talked about Paul Mitchell, and then a lot of the rumors of that were very much squashed down to nothing, to not existing at all. And it's not totally true that there was nothing going on at all. In fact, it's not true at all that there was nothing going on. However, the people who make the decisions did not want to bring in Paul Mitchell. They weren't interested in it. It was suggested by Ralph Rangnick. It was brought by Ralph Rangnick, and basically it died and was really squashed because Ralph Rangnick fell out with the whole club. The Edwards stuff is not even close to that. United do have a director of football at this point in time. They have the setup that they want. They have the structure that they want as of now, and they're not expecting to make any sort of significant changes or additions to the current setup. They added a deputy director of football. They've hired people for, additional analysts, things like that. But in terms of the overall main setup, they have made the additions that they want. The news I didn't mention the thing about Van der Sar either, because neither Edwards nor Van der Sar, as far as I understand, is a real story at this point in time, in terms of that it's actually happening, actually could happen anytime soon, that it's close, that there's active discussions being held. None of that. The reason that you'll see a bit of a mixture of the news is there's people around United or within United who want to do things a certain way, and there's a lot of people who make decisions that feel quite the opposite, and that it shouldn't be done. So that's what I would say with that, is that there's not much to go off of on these stories, that there really isn't much in it. Don't expect, and I do not expect, anything significant in terms of changes to the overall hierarchy at United without a change in ownership or anytime soon. Eric Ten Hag is taking control of a lot of things, which I'll get to in a minute. In terms of the manager at United, the manager still has a lot of power, and they're still very involved in certain things. So when it comes to transfers, again, I want to reiterate a certain point and bring this clear when we're talking about January. We're not expecting anything. Stories about signings and things like that are not likely. It's mostly would be based on, does Cristiano Ronaldo leave? Can a deal for him from summer be brought forward? And as of now, that is not on the table, but there is time, and who knows what went on in that discussion. You could always see a chance where it was said to Ronaldo, look, you come in, be a part of this team, and if you can get a buyer in January, we'll let you go for free. No fee. They just have to pay your wages. That discussion could be part of what placates the situation. You don't know that. That may be the case. That could be possible, but that's their private discussion. We'll see if anything comes of it. But that would be the main thing for a transfer. Like I said about the Frimpong and right back news, I get it, but I don't believe it totally. Again, if anything, it would be a cheaper forward option. That is what I've got very distinctly. If anyone comes in, it would be a cheaper forward option in January right now. As of now, that's all that's being considered, all that's being looked at realistically, and all that can be planned for. So, it's just a word of warning to a lot of the news that's out there with regards to, transfers and things like that. Sometimes I'm here to tell you, look, there's these names and this names, and look at all that. And I've given a lot of those, but they're mostly for the summer. So we're talking about Goncalo Ramos, Harry Kane, Osimhen, these types of names, Diogo Costa. We're talking about summer. Not January as of now. United are fairly quiet in January usually, and this year is certainly no exception, as they overextended on the budget. So just think with that, but maybe in the meantime, there could be more news about a potential sale, buyers, things like that as we go through the World Cup months, because that is the only way that is going to change as of now. United are still in a situation where they need investment in order to do the things that need to be done. And it's going to be very hard, even with top four, things like that, to do what they want to and need to do with the club from a financial standpoint. So I still see this being a long road, but potentially where things could go moving forward as they continue to struggle to find any sort of financial investment opportunity that doesn't rely on them selling the club. And then finally, in terms of South America, there have been some more rumors of South America. And one of the things that United have wanted to do for some time is establish a relationship with South America, with overseas, and work out some way where they can bring players in, or another club that they can work with a little bit to bring players through, where they can make a stop before they're able to, whether it's based on work permit or development or things like that. And it's interesting. This isn't necessarily all my own information, but obviously you're seeing a lot of stuff about South American players coming out in the media. Finally, there's been a lot of really good transfers from South America recently. When you think about Enzo Fernandez, Julian Alvarez, Moise Caicedo, there's been a lot of these types of players moving recently that have done really well and been excellent. And so United are looking on that front, and we'll see what happens here. I may have more on this from someone that I'd speak to soon. But it's just something to look out for, that they may be exploring this area more. And this would be driven by Ten Hag to work out a more robust scouting and recruitment when it comes to specifically the South American market, and getting on top of that, an area that United have struggled with for a long time and is pretty much overdue, because, man, there's a lot of talents, young players coming out of there that could be got before they're 80, 100 million players, like a guy like Enzo Fernandez, who would be perfect. On a final note on some transfers, so what I've been told in terms of priority positions, just to reiterate, is that the striker is the major priority. But when it comes to the midfield, which comes after goalkeeper, which is still dependent on how Dean does and how De Gea does and what they do with that, in the midfield, from the last couple of weeks, it's basically been looked at that Ten Hag was really happy with the type of energy and style of play that Fred provides. But like we've been talking about, he wants someone with more quality. But his ideal fit for that midfield would be someone like Fred with more passing quality going forward. But it is still unlikely to be addressed now. And I'm told that you practically can write United out of the Jude Bellingham stakes, and that Madrid have spoken with him recently. And that is far and away the most likely destination that he ends up at. And so, that would maybe be the only reason United would spend a lot next summer on the midfielder and forego something else. But it's looking very unlikely that happens, and that the midfield will be pushed to the following year. And you could expect striker, and don't expect United to be seriously in the race for Jude Bellingham right now. He's not considering United among his first candidates at the moment. And Madrid is the expected destination in the end. So that's where it's at right now. Not a ton of news. Tomorrow I'll do a preview of the game, see what else comes out, see if there's any other information I have, but a little bit quiet. I'll keep trying to pass along any sort of tidbits that we get with regards to, potential targets, players being looked at for these positions, the main priorities of striker and goalkeeper. I appreciated a lot of the answers regarding Kane and comments and things like that I asked on Twitter as well. It was extremely mixed. I mean, extremely mixed. You got a lot of people saying 100% yes and a lot of people saying definitely not. It was really mixed. I was quite surprised to see how split the opinion was on Harry Kane. But I'll keep bringing any sort of news on real names that I think are actual candidates for the coming summer. In the goalkeeper position and striker, in any other position of need. And then we'll see. So leave me your thoughts on the video below. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on, and I will see you in the next one.